If you've ever asked the universe for some kind of sign and got it clear as day, what was it and how did it go? I was walking. What would have been a 4-hour drive. And I was walking. I straight up begged for a car to stop and pick me up, and literally seconds later a woman stopped who was traveling all the way to where I was heading. Same town. 4 hours away. What are those odds? I asked if I should bother sending a text to my abusive ex. My phone responded by discharging all of its electricity through the charger port and refusing to turn back on. Edit. I feel as though I should clarify this, since there's been a bit of confusion. I'm a dude. The abuser was my ex-girlfriend. So, yeah. Sadly that crap happens to guys too. But I was lucky to have supportive friends and family that helped me to get the hell away from her. And now I know what signs to look for, and what lines don't get crossed. Actually just got out of the healthiest relationship of my life. And though I'm quite sad about it ending, at least I know now how to find a good person to be vulnerable with. All my life, whenever I went to the beach I had wanted to find an intact sand dollar. I had found lots of pieces, but never a whole one. When I was in my mid-30s, I went with a group of friends to the coast. I was walking alone along the beach and the moonlight close to midnight. I was feeling very sorry for myself in the dark, and really lonely, even though I was with my friends that weekend. I had just started thinking the thought, wouldn't it be a great sign right now to know that I'm loved if I finally found a sand dollar? I had barely formed the thought when I looked down, and right at my feet was an intact sand dollar. After reading this thread, a group hug is needed. I really don't like my job, and I've been daydreaming about what I could do. I just needed a place to be able to do it. The next day I get offered to house sit for a couple years in this big Japanese house that has a storefront in the front. There's a perfect space to do what I would want to do. I would live rent free and be able to save up to buy my own business visa here. I wouldn't need to work in this job anymore. I got home from my best friend's funeral. The whole time sitting in the funeral home asking him or God for a sign. When I got home I turned on the TV, and his favorite song was playing on Much Music. Once while walking to work as a teenager I asked God to show me a sign if I should get out of my relationship, abusive ex. And just as I finished the prayer a fish came flying out of nowhere and smacked me in the face. I went down and blacked out for a second, and when I came to there were these 3 hillbilly men surrounding me, fanning me, and just generally freaking out. When they realized I was awake they just started apologizing, and said they swore they had put the strap on their cooler. They gave me some ice for my eye, and walked me down to work, so I could call my mom to pick me up. I broke up with my ex the next day out of fear of being smacked by a rogue fish again. I was looking up at the night sky, and said Dad show me a shooting star, and one shot across the sky. He had passed a few years earlier, and it was purely coincidental, but I really needed it at the time. I had gotten a job at a retail store, and went in for the orientation and to-do training. The vibe was kind of off in the store, but I ignored it. I got to the back where the computers were, but couldn't shake the feeling of being uncomfortable. In my head I said, alright universe, if I'm not meant to work here, show me some kind of sign. Make them send me home for the day or something. About an hour later, a huge storm rolled in, and shut off the power in the store. The manager came in, and said for me to go home, since their computers weren't working, and I couldn't do my training. A couple months later, and I was working at a new job that I absolutely love. I decided to kill myself about the age of 13. Life sucked, and I planned to go home from church that night and off myself if there was no direct intervention. Out of nowhere my aunt stopped me and said I feel like you need to come home with me, and I'm still here. Damn witch. Lottery tickets. I was always curious about lottery tickets, but never wanted to indulge in it. One day in a grocery store, I told the universe, I'm going to buy a lotto ticket now. Not the grand bumper ones. Just a simple scratch one. For the first time in life, if I win a prize, I'll take it as a sign from you, and never buy it again. I bought a ticket for $3. Scratched it and won $500. I smiled and donated $250 of the amount. Enjoyed some good food multiple times with the other $250. Never bought or looked at a lottery ticket again. Will never do. Had to choose between MCDS and Taco Bell. I flipped a coin and chose MCDS. Friend got TB and had food poisoning. Wife was insisting I work the garden on my day off. I begrudgingly started, but said to her, if it rains I'm out. Right on cue there was a huge clap of thunder and lightning strike up on the hill about 2 miles away. I did a little robot shutdown dance and Dad moonwalked back into the house. Sounds really stupid, but I was visiting my nanny, and she had just spontaneously told me her sexual abuse story. I was shocked, and hadn't ever told anyone mine. So on the drive home I jokingly told myself, if there's Y in the next number plate I see on the way home I'll tell my boyfriend my story. Probably 9/10 cars had a Y on them. I think it was just a coincidence, but at least I got to tell my story and I don't regret it. I just spoke to the universe, and said some things. Got on Reddit to distract me from a troubled mind. And I find a question like this right on top. How's that for some cherry pie? My mother passed away when I was a baby, so I have no memories of her, and my dad rarely talks about her as it was very painful for him. I had a very abusive childhood, and don't really speak to my family much, so I'm very much an independent loner. In a moment of weakness seeking support, I asked the universe and my mother for guidance and that, if she really is there watching over me to wake me up at exactly 3:33 AM that night. She proved she was there for me that night. Woke up randomly at exactly 3:33 AM. I found more strength that night and I continue to seek ways of connecting with her. So I was going to the mall when my sister said wait up, and while she was getting ready it started raining. And there was a mall shooting that day. Coming out for the very first time, I was really, unnecessarily, nervous. It was to a good friend of mine, and I saw him walking around with rainbow socks. Then I knew I would be fine. So after 5 minutes of awkward stumbling I said that I'm B, and he just replied with a smooth "oh me too lol."